Today we'll be removing the master disconnect switch from the back of Michael's car. Doing some work on Michael's Mk3 today. The wiring on this one is just atrocious. This one is using a stock Ford harness from a 2003 Mustang Mk1. And while there's nothing wrong with using a donor harness, normally we would diet out all the wires that we're not using. On this build, it just seems as though they left the harness intact and tried to shove as much of the excess harness up behind the dash and into the foot boxes and places you don't want to have to look if you're having a drivability issue that is wire related. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start here at the back of the car. The battery cable, someone at some point decided that they were going to add this master disconnect switch, and in doing so they put it in probably one of the worst spots that you could put a master disconnect switch. The gas tank is right underneath here. The master disconnect switch, which has no fuse or anything in between it and where the battery is right behind it. And so if this car were ever to be involved in a rear-end collision, even if it were a minor collision where this disconnect switch punctured the gas tank, bad things could happen. So we're going to eliminate that. We'll also show you the way in which it was relocated here, because I don't believe the car originally had this disconnect switch. I think it was something that was added by probably the second owner, and we'll go through the some of the things we're going to do to fix this car. So. All right, trunk's kind of full of stuff right now. We've got both the driver's and the passenger 5-point harnesses, the lap portion and submarine portion of those belts in the trunk, because we've been pre-fitting some new seats in the front, and so the harnesses were kind of in the way. It just made it easier to get the seats fit in there and make brackets without the belts in there. But here's what we got for the battery cables. As you can see, now we've pulled the battery out, and the connection that they used to go from the existing battery cable, which was on the post of the battery at one time, and down to the connection on the master disconnect switch was just this. I've taken the nut off because I had to do that when I pulled the battery out, but they basically just took an eyelet like a starter cable and bolted it to the existing top post mount battery terminal. And you can see when they did that, this wasn't even tightened down to the point where it was a positive connection. There was always this gap in between the two sides of the terminal. So I don't know how reliable it was. I haven't really talked to the owner about it to find out if he was having starting issues or not. But I do know that after the car was here for a number of weeks, we tried to move the car and it just wouldn't start. It was getting no battery power whatsoever. So I don't know if it was related to this or maybe something behind the dash. But we're eliminating this. We're actually going to run new battery cables for this car. The car's getting complete rewire and a new Terminator X system for running the engine. And so today we're just going to go ahead and take this out. We're going to take this other cable out, which is the return, going back up to where the battery was. And how they had this connected was they had a top mount terminal adapter with a stud on it that you would see like for marine use, to get this cable to mount to the battery that was here. So I mean, it was just a comedy of errors the way this battery was hooked up. And when we got the car here in the shop, both of the mounts, you can see there's one mount there, is attached, but the one on the other side was broken to where the battery wasn't even held in place. It moved around in the trunk, and it was just a matter of time before this whole thing was going to move around and arc, and bad things were going to happen. So we'll pull out this switch, pull out these cables, and get that portion of this done. All right, I've pulled off the knob. There's just a single Phillips head screw, and that allows the knob to come off of there. And now I've grabbed a left-handed adjustable wrench, and we'll loosen that up a little bit to the point where we can get it off and it's hand tight. Put all that stuff aside, and then I'm going to reach up in from the back and pull it out, and now we should be able to get this whole menagerie out of here. All right, so that's it. That's the whole nightmare that they had under there to get that thing mounted. Now what we're probably going to end up doing here on the back of the car to minimize what we've got is we'll just take some rubbing compound, try to get the surface clean, throw a coat of wax on it, and then see if we can use a screw mount electrical conduit knockout plug, and we'll just paint it blue or black, just to kind of blend it in. And then when the car goes in for body work, because you can see in a lot of spots the paint's really rough. This is a great driver car, but there are some spots on the car. There's some Texas pinstripes here on the side corner. The paint's going to need some love at some point, and so when it goes in for that body work, we'll have this addressed and have the hole filled, and then they can repaint and restripe the car. Thanks for joining us for this look back on Michael's build from earlier in the build. We appreciate you watching the channel. You all have a good day.